Hey there. Good morning, Indiana. Welcome to Who's Left This Week, the Sunday morning news and politics show for the Hoosier State without all the bad faith, both sides, BS, MAGA gaslighting, and false equivalency. My name is Scott Aaron Rogers. I am broadcasting from Bloomington, and we've got quite a packed show today. After a big ugly meeting held by President Trump and Pete Hegseth, calling all of the top generals and admirals to Washington for a fascist pep rally. I've got three veterans with me here on the panel to discuss their proposed war on the American people. So that's our one big thing today. We're going to talk about that in our last third of the show. But first, let me take care of a little bit of housekeeping here. For those of you watching us on YouTube on Project Next, be sure to go ahead and like the video, hit that share button, and if you are not subscribed, do that now and hit the bell icon so you get notifications whenever we post new content. We are also on Facebook Live. Make sure you are following us there. Finally, I've got this handy list of our social media handles there posted for you on the side of the screen. If you're not watching and you are listening, do be sure to follow Project Next on the social media at Project Next Movement. On most of them, on TikTok, it's Project Next Media, and on X, which I don't recommend going there, but if you do, they are at Project Next 25. I am at Who's Left on most of the social medias, and my handle on the Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads is the same as my website. That is who'sleft.us. All right, shameless promotion over. Let us welcome in our panel today. First, Derrick Holder, welcome back to the show. You live here at this point, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's my second home.
This is my my online roommate, Derrick Holder. Welcome back. Always good to have you, sir.
Great to be here, as always.
Another returning guest, one of our all-time favorites. There is 2026 Indiana Secretary of State candidate Blythe Potter.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Always great to see your face.
You too.
And we also have a new face to add to the panel. There is Hancock County Democratic Party Vice Chair Charles Gill. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I think our viewers know the other two, but go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Well, I am a U.S. Navy veteran of 7 years. I work here in Hancock County in the city of Greenfield, and I right now serve as the Hancock County Vice Chair for our party here, and we're gaining a lot of strength here in Hancock County. Our party's growing every single meeting, every single event, so we're getting that blue push going.
Well, thank you all for your service to this country, and thank you all for your service to democracy in general here in your retirements. I thank you, and our viewers thank you. So, let us go ahead and begin, and we're gonna do things a little differently this week. The last several shows we've been starting in Indiana and zooming out. Today, we're going to start with our US and world stories and then come full circle at the end. And we are going to begin this week on Fascism Watch. Let us start near our own border here, just on the other side of the state line in Chicago. So, our neighbors are under attack. Armed Border Patrol agents are patrolling the city. We first saw this last Sunday as armed agents in bulletproof vests carrying rifles were observed patrolling downtown Chicago, walking the Magnificent Mile, after they were seen earlier last week patrolling the Chicago River on boats. Over the course of the week, things have only escalated in Chicago. We saw a massive immigration raid on a Chicago apartment building on the south side of the city. This is not far from the state line, mind you, where armed federal agents in fatigues busted down doors overnight, middle of the night, pulling women, men, and children, some of them naked, from their apartment building. Agents entered nearly every apartment in this 5-story building, detaining many, including U.S. citizens, for hours. Also in Chicago, in the suburbs, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem herself led a raid in Elgin, which detained one U.S. citizen, among others. Helicopters, flashbangs, bright lights, and yeah, Noem herself banging down the door with a battering ram. Cosplay Barbie in full effect. So let us start there and talk about a couple of those things. Is some more Chicago stuff. Oh, and I do need to mention, I was talking to our good friend Tracy Martin up in Northwest Indiana. She lives on Munster, right on the other side of the state line, and she says people up there in the region are just as unwell, or I mean, just as on edge as folks in the city. These raids are bleeding over into Hammond, Whiting, East Chicago. Massive Latino presence in East Chicago. For those of you who do not know, it is a majority Hispanic city. So, all right, let's talk about Chicago here for a second. This is a city I love. Let's begin with Derrick. Derrick, what are your thoughts on what looks like an occupation of an American city?
It's completely ridiculous. I mean, we've come to a point where people are turning in their neighbors because they're looking for that little bonus that, ICE will give them. And sorry. And, I mean, kids, children, women, men being dragged out of their apartments, not even being asked, if they're citizens or not, and the ICE agents not caring. Have we gotten to the point where we're going to be walking down the street and you're going to hear someone say, "Do you have your papers?"
I mean, we already are. We saw this in Los Angeles not that long ago, where was this the Supreme Court? And I'm going to have to fact check myself here before I post this later. But they basically said, "Oh yeah, it's okay. It's okay to go ahead and racially profile people."
Yeah, it's horrible. I love Chicago too, and yeah, it's completely insane what's going on right now up there. And who knows when it may hit down here next.
Yeah. This is fascism in our streets. Before we went live, Blythe, I think you said this reminded you of Iraq.
It truly does. And I'm gonna backtrack a little so I don't forget to say this, because anybody who's paying attention to this, anyone who is part of fighting back against this, regardless of political view, if you are a candidate, if you're involved with your local party, if you're involved with a local organization like Indivisible, if you're just listening and sharing information, you are part of this service to our country, because clearly our elected officials and likely our military aren't going to fix this. We are. So thank those of you who are in this with us and experiencing this trauma. But yeah, it feels, and Charles and I were talking about this yesterday. It feels a lot like being in Iraq, because I don't know who my enemy is. If they don't have their red hat on, I do not know if they want to kill me or not. Some of those people are my family, and we don't know where the next attack is going to come. And it's starting to, I laugh because it's so sad. Like, this is the thing that we're going to look back on in history books, and our children be like, there's no way that happened. Kind of like we did with the Holocaust. Like, how the fuck did this happen? And it's real. This is real story. This is real life. This is real trauma. And we are all going to have PTSD from this, whether you agree with my beliefs or not. This is traumatizing to be part of. And it feels helpless. And a lot of Iraq felt helpless because you're just doing, then at least I had someone telling me what to do. I had a steady paycheck and I knew what to wear every day, and I didn't have to make those decisions, right? There wasn't the decision fatigue on top of this. There's anxiety, there's an uncertainty, and it's scary, and it feels like fashion trends, right? It starts in California and Chicago, and then it's gonna make its way here. It will be here.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, and listen, we're shortly here we're talking about another city where they're up to this thing already. And listen, it's not just troops in the streets. Like, so, they're also using other ways to attack the cities. And, so I've got this is from the Chicago Sun-Times. Trump is threatening to freeze over $2 billion in infrastructure projects in the city, like the Red Line extension. So, that's part of the CTA, the L train. The Red Line's the one right up 94 there where you're coming into the city, right through the heart of town. And the White House on Friday said it is going to withhold $2.1 billion in funding for these projects as Trump escalates his fight with the city and follows through on his threat to punish Democrats over the government shutdown. We'll talk about the shutdown. So, Charles, I want to talk about sort of this angle here. The shutdown, again, which we will talk about more, it seems like it might be an in. While the rest of the government can't do anything, the executive is going to take everything into his hands. And you have, the budget director, Russell Vogt, the architect of Project 2025, using this as a opportunity to wield, financial and funding weapons in addition to actual weapons. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. And I want to I'm going to kind of take a key from Blythe here that these things that they're doing, this withholding of congressionally, authorized funds, is not in the executive's purview. He does not have that authority to do that, and so that has to be resonated and called out every single time. You know, they think they can just go in and take a battle axe and carve up the government any which way they want to, but they forget that there is an actual, there are laws, there are things, and people have to stand up against those things. And there are folks in our government that are trying to do that. Unfortunately, they're getting tossed out on their butt the second they say and you're gone. And again, even in that, those folks that come out of that, they're going to be joining, this push against this stuff from a different side.
Yeah.
So, it is, and people don't realize the impacts of withholding infrastructure money because there are projects that are under critical, absolutely critical projects that are underway, like, drinking water and wastewater projects, and, transportation and bridges. And I mean, all these things, they all play together. And it's not just that he's punishing the left, he's actually punishing everybody. And that's another part of this conversation that gets lost is, oh, we're handing it to the libs. Well, I hate to tell you, it's not just the left that gets hurt by these things. I mean, it is literally everybody. And yet it gets lost in the conversations as we go forward in this. I think we need to resonate the information with everybody that says, this isn't everybody thing. This isn't just a left thing or a right thing. This is an everybody thing. This is a whole country thing. This is who are we going to be? Who are we going to allow this to happen? Right. So, yeah, it's completely illegal, immoral, and they're completely on the wrong.
And I really tell you that is kind of the theme of today's show, right? Like, what kind of country are we? Who's going to stand up and do something about this? And I do need to mention in passing, we just saw this morning, before we went live here, and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said in a statement that the Trump administration intends to federalize 300 Illinois National Guard members after he was offered an ultimatum on troop deployment. A quote from the governor this morning: the Trump administration's Department of War, LOL, gave me an ultimatum: call up your troops or we will. The governor continued, it is absolutely outrageous and un-American to demand a governor send military troops within our own borders and against our will. End quote. The White House did later confirm those plans. Now, Chicago is not the only city being threatened with National Guard troops being federalized. So another city I love, Portland, Oregon. I've got family out there. I grew up near Chicago. I got family in Portland. I love these two American cities, and I feel for all their residents. So, same playbook here: threatening funds. The White House is pressuring Portland. Obviously surging federal law enforcement, but they're also going after the city's pocketbook on Fridays. So the administration, according to Lion Carolyn Levitt, the White House press secretary, the administration will review cutting federal funding for Portland as well, citing what she said was elected officials' refusal to work with the White House to crack down on street crime and immigration enforcement. Now, the White House activated 200 National Guard troops, to patrol downtown Portland, the same as they have in Chicago. However, U.S. District Judge Karen Immerget, a Trump appointee, mind you, issued a temporary restraining order after the state and the city sued. The order expires on October 18th, but could be extended. She wrote in her ruling that the U.S. Constitution grants Congress the power to call forth troops, the militia, in the founding document, to execute laws, suppress an insurrection, or repel an invasion. She wrote that Trump's attempt to federalize the National Guard, absent constitutional authority, undermines the sovereign interests of Oregon. So now, as I understand that, I'm hearing the legal words: execute laws, suppress an insurrection, or repel an invasion. I don't think we have any of those things going on here. Then that appears to be what the judge is saying. Do I read that correctly, Derrick?
Well, according to our glorious leader, they are the enemy, though. They are the enemy within. We're being attacked from within. I mean, we'll touch on that a little bit later during his little pep rally. But, I mean, in his views, yeah, they are the enemy. But my whole thing about Portland is I hope the guardsmen and guardswomen are getting really nice artisanal cheeses right now in Portland. And they're, really protecting Portlandia from, the invasion of Vancouver baristas trying to take over the jobs. I mean, it's quite horrible in Portland. I've seen videos of, oh my God, people actually going to work. It's mayhem in Portland right now.
So I've seen pictures from Portland, and residents are protesting in the most Portland way possible, like clowning these troops that are obviously here against their will. Literally dressed up like clowns, mocking the troops, staging a kind of a ridiculous demonstration that in a way shows how silly this thing is. Blythe, is that maybe the way to protest this instead of the appeals to our humanity, to the rule of law, to our sense of common decency don't seem to be working? Is pointing and laughing the way to go?
I hate to say this, but I think it might be, because it's one of those things where, I mean, this is just that ridiculous. And I'm here for it. We have to be doing something different in addition to protesting. And I think that's a great way to do it. I mean, really, the enemy from within is MAGA. It's this regime. So it's like everything they do is always the opposite of what they're actually saying. Like, they are, again, the insurrectionists and the problem. But yeah, I think adding humor, because I mean, look at how we were just talking about Gavin Newsom's posts. The Latina woman who's doing his social media, they're like throwing back their ridiculousness at them in the same method. I mean, it's kind of like this. This is definitely a shit show, and they are clowns. So, yeah, I'm here for it.
I think Charles, it's an important demonstration that we're not afraid. We're not afraid of you, and I think so much of MAGA and the Trump administration and what they're doing is, man, they are like sharks in the water, and they smell blood. They can tell that people are afraid and get into a frenzy about it. If we're not afraid, does that diminish their effectiveness?
I believe en masse, yes, because they have been able to manipulate human fear almost expertly. I mean, it's what I would equate to in the foreign theater, like a psyops or something along that line, where they're actually conducting psychological warfare on our own people, and to that effect, that if we can take the humor and say, hey, look at how ridiculous this actually is. I mean, I gravitate more to like stand-up comics who point out the reality, because they are kind of literally the living historians and pointing out what the actual hell are we doing here on these things. And even then, I have a bad feeling they're going to probably attack or two, sooner or later. I think their fear. I think a lot of this is born out of their own fears, because they fear anything that is different from their own weird cult mindset, and it really is a cult mindset that we're dealing with these people. And if it contradicts a thing in the dear leader's mind, then oh my God, it has to be dealt with. Well, but I think the people in Portland are handling it absolutely beautifully, where they're kind of said like, yeah, okay, fine, you're here, okay, we get it, but it's not your fault. You've been told to go there, and I feel for the military guys that are there. I mean, the National Guard members that are there, I guarantee 90%, 99% of them are sitting there like, what the hell are we doing? This is absolutely useless. I mean, we are not trained to be in the domestic environment. That is not what the military was for. And I think a lot of these guys are just trying. A lot of these folks are on the ground. They're kind of like, okay, this sucks. And we've all served on deployments where it just absolutely, we were like, why are we here? This absolutely makes zero sense. And that's what these folks are going to be going through every day.
I'm really interesting to hear all of your perspectives on this as we go forward and work toward our one big thing here at the end. So I want to move on and talk about, we're talking about one of the hallmarks of fascism is this concept of identifying an enemy within. And so obviously we've got Portland and Chicago and they're using these cities as a way to point at internal enemies. They're also prosecuting political opponents, and that is another one of the hallmarks of fascism. So last week we heard about former FBI director James Comey being indicted. So now 42 retired federal judges wrote an open letter first obtained by NBC News, which I am quoting from here. So they talk about this Comey indictment as not just persecuting a political enemy, but a threat to us all. So in their letter, these former federal and state judges warned that, quote, rights and liberties of every American are in grave danger today as President Donald Trump continues to corruptly abuse the power of his office by directing the United States Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to target his critics and his perceived political enemies for investigation and criminal prosecution. They continue. All Americans have an obligation as citizens of this great country to speak out against this unprecedented attack on our freedom of speech and to demand that Donald Trump's attacks on our right to speak freely without fear of being persecuted and prosecuted by our government must stop now. End quote. So, I will ask, Derrick, are they correct?
Yeah, very much correct on saying, hey, we have to be able to speak freely and to, not agree with you if that is our views. And I mean, Comey was just doing his damn job. I mean, it sucks for our dear leader that, Comey said some shit that made him sad, but you know what? You don't persecute people because they made you sad. I mean, I remember, oh God, what was it? When Trump first started to run and always talked about the snowflakes on the left. Guess who the snowflakes actually are, though? I
The
mean, you hurt
flakiest
my
of the snowflakes.
feelings, I'm going to sue you. So it's like how the turns have tabled.
Seriously. Also, additionally, like on Comey, so it's ironic because the FBI has always been a conservative, reactionary, even organization. They never, ever in their entire history had a Democratic director. Comey is a lifelong Republican. All of the FBI directors have been lifelong Republicans, and yet we're seeing this organization somehow painted as like the deep state, as a cesspool of liberalism or something. And it's funny, but like, so they actually suspended an FBI agent this week because this person has reportedly refused to perp walk their former employer, their former boss, James Comey. The agent was suspended for insubordination, according to CBS. And I got this via the BBC. This is after the agent found the plan to be inappropriate. Blythe, are they correct? Is this the right thing for this agent to do, or is it their obligation to follow orders?
No, this is where we don't follow orders. This is where we need people in any capacity to safely disobey, whether it be military, FBI. I mean, I probably the regime hires at the White House are lost causes, but this is nonpartisan. This is our future. This is our safety. This is our livelihood. This is a bunch of likely coked up, wealthy imbeciles raging war on us for what? More money? Like,
Yeah, control.
I mean, that's what
power,
what this is,
money.
right?
I mean,
This is keeping legacies. This is keeping nepotism. This is keeping control. And you mentioned psyops. I don't think they're smart enough to think of it as psyops.
Okay, I was giving a little maybe too much credit. I
No,
agree.
it's not a credit thing. Like it is. I mean, they're not smart enough to make it intentional. It
Right.
is. It is psychological warfare. I very much agree with that, but I don't think they're doing it from the standpoint that it's not working. We know it's not working. So we need more judges. We need more people in the FBI to do this, and it is going to risk their jobs.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's interesting that you use psyops as the term, and yeah, it kind of is. It's fear is a major psychological driver, and us being afraid like this is psychologically damaging. Another element though of the psychological operations here is control of the media. Again, another one of your hallmarks of fascism, right? And I do have a couple stories in that regard that I wanted to point out this week. So, first of all, we've seen in the past that ABC rolled over and caved. They paid Trump off after he sued for George Stephanopoulos' statements regarding his sexual impropriety. I don't want to say conviction. It was a civil case in New York with E. Jean Carroll, right? We saw CBS fold with 60 Minutes, and they sued for that. We saw the Jimmy Kimmel stuff not all that long ago, though. He did make his way back onto the air. One of the major media conglomerates that we have not seen cave yet is Google until this week. So This from ABC News. YouTube has agreed to pay $24.5 million to settle a lawsuit filed by President Trump and other plaintiffs after he was suspended from the platform in 2021, according to a court filing. The filing also says that $22 million will be used to support Trump's construction of a White House ballroom and will be held in a tax-exempt entity called the Trust for the National Mall. The other $2.5 million will go to other plaintiffs in the lawsuit, including the American Conservative Union, Andrew Baggiani, Austin Fletcher, Marissa Veronica Jean-Louis, Frank Valentine, Kelly Victory, and Naomi Wolf, only one of whom I've ever actually heard of. Those folks were all suspended in the aftermath of January 6th for, spreading misinformation and fomenting violence online. Charles, are you surprised, disappointed, shocked
Yes.
by Google and YouTube folding, or is this just more of the same?
Yes to all of it. I mean, the thing I guess I don't quite comprehend, and I have a hard time wrapping my brain around. I mean, the free press is a cornerstone of our democracy and has been since our founding. And I believe that these entities are not upholding that status of themselves. They should fight to stay independent. They could have defeated any one of these things easily if they would have actually invested the time to do it. What was put out was not wrong. It was an insurrection. It was an attack on the government. It was an attack on our very foundational principles. And I'm sorry if that upsets the dear leader, but that's the reality of it. The fact that these organizations are caving to this pressure is downright scary in a certain respect, because each one of us has served to protect the ability to have a free press, to be able to voice those opinions, to be able to have the ability to dissent, to have those conversations. But I also think it kind of comes back to another part of this, that when did we lose the ability to be able to talk, to just express, hey, I may not agree with you, but that's okay. We're not, if everybody saw eye to eye, my God, this it would be absolutely, what's the point? But that was the whole founding of what we were, is take a multitude of ideas and find the best way forward. And when did that become a bad thing? When did we lose that? And why are we continuing to lose it is the other question. I just, dumbfounded is probably a massive understatement, but it's just unbelievable.
How dare
Yeah.
you have diversity? Sheesh.
What?
Well, I mean, so much of this speaks to it's self-censorship. It's willingly folding. It's deciding that the shareholders are more important than the truth. It's not worth it to fight the administration. It's going to cost us in legal fees. So you roll over. You say, hey, don't come after me. We're fine. Nothing to see here. And
Obeying in advance.
yeah, exactly. Obeying in advance. It's the self-censorship and the profit motive, basically, that winds up driving us down the road to fascism. They don't have to do these things, but they do it because they see it as the easy road. Newsflash, it never ends up being the easy road. You did say a couple very important words, though. You said free press, which, actually has, real historical meaning. But in some cases, it's just a brand name. And one of the people, or the person who owns the brand, the free press, is former New York Times columnist and, let's say, heterodox pundit. They like this word a lot. Barry Weiss, who reportedly, as soon as tomorrow, will be named editor-in-chief of CBS News. Now, from the Independent out of the UK, they are reporting that the newsroom staff are, quote unquote, literally freaking out, with sources inside CBS telling the Independent that things are not in a good place right now. So Barry Weiss is, again, a former New York Times columnist. She quit apparently because the Times is too woke, and has made this the central to her brand. The Free Press, which was hosted on Substack, it is the most subscribed publication on that platform, and CBS is reportedly, paying in the neighborhood of $150 million for the Free Press, and naming Weiss as their new editor in chief. Now, should mind you, Weiss has never been an editor. She has never led a real news publication, and she is most known as a staunch pro-Israel ultra-Zionist. Not just a Zionist. She is an Israeli expansionist ultra-Zionist, and I have to distinguish between these two things. So I guess, Derrick, not a good sign when CBS, one of the, I'd say, last independent big legacy news networks, is now rolling over too. We got Weiss being installed by the new owners, Larry and David Ellison. David Ellison's also buying TikTok. Media consolidation. Very scary. Same thing as some of the others. They're just going right along, molding themselves into the Trump mold. Yeah.
It's all been done before. I mean, look at Kodak, look at Bayer, look at Porsche. I mean, and we're talking about, nearly 100 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're same tune, different fiddle. I mean, it's those who do not study history are doomed to repeat it. And we're repeating a very, very horrible part of human history. And I mean, yeah, you're going to have the ones that are just going to bow down and take the easy route out. But the great thing is we have this platform, we have YouTube for now, that we can still, as citizens, fight back against media being suppressed. So, I mean, yeah, they're going to lay down just to make things easy for themselves. And it's sad. It's very sad.
I think, if nothing else, that we should look at the Kimmel thing from a couple weeks ago as sort of the playbook for Americans who are concerned about this. Do not give these people your money. If this is the way CBS is going to be, turn off CBS, or cancel your Paramount subscription, or threaten to. These conglomerates only go along with fascism because they think it is in their financial interest. If their customers, the people who keep them alive financially, remove said interest, maybe we can push them in a healthier direction. I wanted to move one more thing here in the We're on Fascism Watch department, is the control of arts and education. Again, another one of your pillars of fascism. And I have to point out this story. So I am at PBS now. Trump asks 9 colleges to commit to his political agenda for better access to federal money. So a document sent to universities is encouraging them to adopt the White House's vision for America's campuses, with commitments to accept the government's priorities on admission, women's sports, free speech, student discipline, and college affordability, among other topics. Apparently, signing on to this ultimatum would confer quote unquote multiple positive benefits, including substantial and meaningful federal grants and increased overhead payments where feasible, according to the letter sent to the universities alongside this compact. Blythe, that sounds like extortion.
It is. And also, like, the amount of money that we're spending and going in debt, where are we getting all this money? If let's say these people do what they're supposed to do in the college institutions, where are we getting the money? Because we are on a shutdown and people aren't getting paid. Our troops that are being threatened in our cities aren't getting paid. We know when our troops were deployed to LA, they weren't housed properly, they weren't fed properly, they were not paid properly. Like, this is just like his first administration where he does this nonsense. Now it's worse this time. People get up in arms, and then there's repercussions for the administration. Like, this is stupid. This is stupid.
Well, okay. So, I mean, Charles, what are these universities going to do? Are they going to just roll over as they always do, or are they going to actually push back this time? I mean, we're talking about some, major universities here. We got Virginia is one of the schools that has been threatened. It's threatened. University of Texas included on that. These are different from these Ivy League threats that they issued earlier in the year. They folded too, but at least look at Harvard with their massive endowment has the wherewithal to maybe push back. Now they're going after public schools and dangling this carrot here, saying we can do this the easy way or the hard way, right? This is it's rule by mafia.
Yeah, it is, and unfortunately, we're seeing it here locally already. I mean, there are schools here that have already been affected. I think Purdue was being threatened with a grant program for entry, pre-college entry level stuff. I mean, it's attack at all levels, and this plays into the Project 2025 playbook that they're wanting to adopt formally now in Congress. Which our dear leader said that, oh, I don't know anything about it, but now he does. Really weird there. Oh, sorry, tangent. But but the whole thing of will colleges acquiesce or will they stand up? That is a fair question, because those that go to those colleges, those students, those families that are paying these absorbent amount of monies to go to these colleges, have to say, you know what? Maybe we're not going to pay our tuition this year. Maybe we're going to withhold that funding, because the college can't exist on just one medium alone. And I agree with Blythe. It's like, okay, where's all this magical money coming from that, he says, oh, we're bringing in $17 trillion. No, sorry. I mean, that just doesn't compute. And it's just, it's all built on these fallacies. And it's just do as I say, or I will make your life a living hell. And that is what mob bosses and bullies do. And that's all these people know how to bring to bear. It's like one of my favorite podcasters says, when everything looks like a nail, all you have is a hammer. And that's all they can do. They don't understand anything they just want people to do what they want and not ask questions. They want mindless automatons, really.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. This is not the way education is supposed to work. I mean, education is the higher education, especially, is where we go to have these big, high level, contentious discussions. And if you can't disagree in the university, where can you? Very, very scary stuff there. You know what else is scary is just walking outside any given day in America, because the 400 million guns in the streets. And boy, in any sane country, this wouldn't happen, but it's just like another day in America. Last weekend, this would be the top story, right? Any given time, were we not in the times we are now. But excuse me. Sorry. So a series of mass shootings rocked the country last weekend. with 9 people dead and scores of people injured in a slew of mass shooting last week. So they began Saturday morning with multiple shots fired in several incidents in Alexandria, Louisiana, and in Raleigh, North Carolina. At about the same time, a couple hours later, Saturday, there was a third mass shooting when a gunman opened fire with a semi-automatic short-barreled rifle from a boat on a waterfront bar in Southport, North Carolina, leaving 3 people dead and 8 injured. Then, just before midnight last Saturday, a 34-year-old gunman opened fire at the Kickapoo Lucky Eagle Casino along the Texas-Mexico border, and those were just the little shootings. But by the way, just Derrick, drive-by shootings from boats now? That's a new one.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, it works. It's not the most stable platform to fire from, but I mean, I'll leave that to Charles since he was the squid.
I was going to say, Charles, you're a Navy guy. This is your department.
I knew that was going to come there somewhere. I knew that was coming. I mean, again, it's kind of one of these things. I'm kind of surprised in a certain way that, somebody didn't do this sooner. And that sounds sad to say that because there's this culture that guns are ingrained in our everyday. I mean, it is your American duty to have whatever. And I'm like, and I just ask myself, like, why? In what, where does that predominate itself? I mean, years ago when we had the frontier and you had to go out and do all that stuff. Okay, fine. Overseas, sure, understand that totally. And I'm not against guns as long as it is responsible ownership and all that good stuff. I mean, there are a lot of smart gun owners out there. However, there are folks that should not be near weapons, period, of any type and or sort, because they just have issues that are not properly addressed because our healthcare system is massively under what it's overwhelmed in ways that it just can't keep up with right now, thanks to the dear leader and all the other stupid stuff they're doing. But as far as firing from boats, I mean, yeah, I agree. Not the most effective maybe methodology. Not something I hope to ever see again because that just brings up a whole new level of weird.
Nowhere is safe. Nowhere is safe. Even church, which we've seen. We've seen mass violence. We've seen shootings in churches before, but the most deadly incident last weekend was at a Mormon church in Grand Blanc, Michigan, where 4 people were killed and 8 injured in a mass shooting / fire. So this guy, and it's, I don't know if ironic is the word, but in the immediate aftermath of this event, the reaction, especially from the right, was, oh, they're attacking our religion. They're going into churches. They're shooting up the Mormons now. Well, it turns out this was a MAGA guy who thought the Mormons aren't real Christians. This is from the Detroit Free Press. So a city council candidate in Burton, Michigan, which is where the shooter was from. The shooter, the suspect, his name is Thomas Jacob Sanford. So the city council candidate had knocked on Sanford's door a couple weeks earlier. They had little back and forth, little conversation, and before the conversation turned to the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, and this Sanford fellow had a lot of questions for this candidate about the LDS Church. Asked him about the Mormon Bible, the role Jesus plays in LDS, and the history of Joseph Smith, and just the movement in general. And this fellow Sanford wound up telling the candidate Chris Johns that Mormonism is the Antichrist. He didn't say anything political. It wasn't red or blue or left versus right. It was hot Christian on Christian action. Blythe. Sorry.
Wow.
It's not funny,
I
but
mean,
it is. I mean,
this is sectoral violence. This is. You were talking about like Iraq. This is like the Troubles in Northern
this
Ireland.
is status quo MAGA. MAGA is the Antichrist. None of these people are Christians who are doing this. Christ, Jesus, was a brown immigrant man from Palestine who cared about women and poor people and sick people and the elderly, and literally was murdered by the government of Rome because Jesus was resisting the Roman Empire. MAGA is the Roman Empire. We, having these conversations, are Jesus. That is the blame and shame culture that has been ingrained since before white people took over this land has got to finally fucking stop. Because being told that you are right and everyone else is wrong, also you can have your guns, is what is this is the problem. This is the problem. It is Christian nationalism is the problem. And if these people want to start acting like Jesus, they need to fucking put down their guns, get off their fucking Fox News and Truth Social and X and all the BS, and realize that they are the ones that are wrong.
Yeah. So listen, since I have the three of you here, I do need to bring this up. So, two of these incidents were committed by Iraq War veterans. And here, this is from the Northeastern Global News out of Massachusetts and Northeastern University. So these two incidents are not necessarily emblematic of a trend among military veterans, but 23% of all public mass shootings, and that's defined by 4 or more victims, are committed by individuals with some military service, though not necessarily combat experience. Now, to put that in perspective, so 23% of all mass shootings are committed by somebody, with a history of military service. About 13.5% of U.S. men are reported to have served in the armed forces. About 1.5% of women. So that's about 15% of Americans have served in the armed forces. About 23% of your mass shootings are committed by somebody with military service. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but that seems like veterans are overrepresented there. Derrick, what do you attribute that to?
First of all, the lack of mental health coverage. Hell, I'm still waiting to see a head shrinker for the VA, and I've been waiting a little while. But yeah, it's mental health for one. That's the big thing, is mental health issues. And if I could real fast go back to the Grand Blanc, Michigan shooting,
Please.
real fast. In Martinsville, we actually held an interfaith vigil that had Mormon, Presbyterian, Baptist, and Jewish congregations come together and really sit down and talk. And it was a beautiful event. And it was great to see different faiths come together for something that horribly happened. So I wanted to thank everybody who came out for that. But yeah, veterans, we're always going to be overrepresented and stuff for some odd nutball reason. I would have to say mental health issues are the main cause of it, probably.
Yeah. Charles,
but
do
most
you
of
agree?
these people are also Christian nationalists. And
yeah.
This goes back to the KKK. A lot of people who follow that type of propaganda sadly also join the military for one reason or another. One, because they think it's cool to get the fucking guns. Two, they're fucking poor and being suppressed by their government and have no other fucking options. Three, they are not told that there are options and better ways to deal with this trauma and the socioeconomic problems and the rage and the abuse by Christian nationalist churches. they may be veterans, but it's not the military itself per se. It is still the overwhelming Christian nationalist rhetoric that is being put into these people's heads.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was going to ask Charles. No, you go ahead.
Sorry.
You go ahead.
I have a kind of I think it is a combination of both of those things, of mental health, of the Christian nationalist ideologies, and the socioeconomic things that people come from. Because there's times where there are folks that don't have the opportunity to advance themselves because they're held in place by whatever that is in place by either their local government or whatever. But I also think too, for those of us that get out, and we've gone through what we've gone through, when we get out of service, there is not a reacclimation to civilian life type of, we spend so much time going through boot camp, through A schools, through, MOS schools, whatever, to do what we do in the military. But then when we come out, hi, you're on your own. Bye, see you.
Mm-hmm.
There is,
Yep.
literally, you might get a 5-day class. Hey, here's how you fill out a job application. Don't screw it up. Okay, that does not help anybody. When you come out of service, I've been out of service for almost over 20 years now, and I will tell you, I still struggle in the civilian world because there are just certain things to us that does not make a bloody bit of sense. On that same line, if you've experienced traumatic brain injury, or if you've been through severe levels of PTSD, I mean, to the point where hallucinations and some of these things, and you're more susceptible to this Christian nationalist rhetoric, you're going to be a very manipulable tool for these things to happen. And whether they intended to do it or not, okay, that there's debates on that either side. But I agree with some of how Blythe was framing it too, that these folks that are in that world, they are not what Christianity is built on. I mean, if you look at true Christian, and I'm a non-Christian, and this me preaching this, so I'm saying true Christians are exactly how Blythe framed it. They operate on kindness. They want to live their faith. They want to help homeless. They want to make sure everybody's taken care of. That mentality is what we should be kind of looking forward to, helping everyone, including those that are coming out of the service that might be prone to these things. And then there again, they might even not be total prior service. They may have been kicked out for one reason or another, and they may harbor anger and resentment, and that manipulates into, because once that door's open that the government is against you, it's not a far stretch to say that everything is against you. And if you think everything's against you, what is your basic instinct? Fight or take out whatever the threat is. And that's where I think it's so easy to paint with just a brush on certain these things, but I think it's way more nuanced than that sometimes.
Well, it makes
Yeah.
us desperate and isolated. So he's not wrong, especially with guard and reserves, which I was in the reserves. You spend 12 to 18 months on a deployment or in basic or AIT, and you live and breathe what someone else is telling you to do. You don't have to decide what to eat, when you're going to eat, when you're going to sleep. You don't have to decide what to wear. And then you're released to the masses. When I got home from Iraq, I had 90 days to find my own insurance because the military wouldn't cover me. Then I got kicked off of insurance for a pre-existing condition I had when I was 15. I couldn't get hired anywhere because I had no clientele in the industry that I was in. I tried to get a security job with Rolls-Royce, and I was literally told in person to my face by the hiring manager, your social life and your age is going to get affected by this. I'm not going to hire you. I literally just got done doing night res for like fucking 12 months, and you're telling me I'm unqualified for this? So we don't actually get treated with the respect that we need. And it's even worse for females or people of color in the military, because we are dealt with the discrimination in the military. I got my E5 packet pulled because I attended a fucking boxing match with other male soldiers in my goddamn ugly PTs because it looked bad for the boss. No, 3 women did something that you didn't like, motherfucker, and he pulled our packets. That is discrimination that we just had to suck it up and deal with in country. And I got home, my ex-husband, who was also military, cheated on me. His girlfriend sent me her pregnancy test in Iraq, stopped paying the bills. And because I was upset and traumatized by that, I got asked to leave my unit. It was my fault. So the military also eats its own. and does the same thing. And then they put us in the civilian world who treats us also the same way. Like, I lost family from that divorce. I lost my battle buddies from that divorce. I was treated like it was all me that was the problem for reacting to my circumstances. So there's not a good infrastructure in place for military personnel inside or outside of the military when they are being treated this way, and they will eat their own, and that is going to cause resentment. And a lot of times our veterans get out and we look for that camaraderie, our battle buddies, and a lot of times white men are finding it in these white domestic terrorist style groups. And that's because it feels safe and comfortable, right? And that's what we want and we need, but we don't have that support by and large. And I'm still not convinced that the military has changed that much, even though I thought it was, and now we're just backsliding.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, it sounds like a bad idea to train people how to be lethal and use them up and spit them out and throw them out on the streets without any help when they have that training. Lots to say there. Again, we're gonna keep on this theme. I have to move on to right now. Listen, it's not all horrible news this week, I guess, because we might be on a breakthrough of a ceasefire in Gaza. So, from this is from the Associated Press. So, apparently, Hamas has signaled a willingness to accept a peace proposal from the Trump administration, as has Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So, Trump says he thinks Hamas is ready for a lasting peace and has told Israel to stop bombing the territory. But he warns that all bets will be off if Hamas doesn't move quickly. Netanyahu, meanwhile, says he hopes to announce the release of all remaining hostages in the coming days. There are still uncertainties remaining around the plan ahead of indirect talks between Israel and Hamas beginning tomorrow in Egypt. Already, Netanyahu says there will not be a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. So, hedging bets there already. We got to keep an eye on this thing, but for now, it looks like there are positive developments. So, here are the essentials to understand of this plan. So, all hostilities will immediately end within 72 hours. Hamas is supposed to release all remaining hostages it holds, living or dead. They still have 48 hostages. Israel believes 20 or so are still alive. Israel, for their part, would free about 250 Palestinians serving life sentences in its prisons and 1,700 people detained from Gaza since the war began, including all women and children. Israel also will hand over the bodies of 15 Palestinians for each body of a hostage handed over. Furthermore, Israeli troops will withdraw from Gaza after Hamas disarms, and an international security force will deploy. The territory would be placed under international governance, with Trump and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair overseeing it. Now, this is a point of contention. It is not clear that Hamas officials are on board with that one. One of those officials telling Al Arabi television that Hamas would refuse foreign administration of the Strip and that entry of foreign forces would be unacceptable. An interim administration of Palestinian technocrats would run day-to-day affairs. Hamas will have no part in administering Gaza, and all of its military infrastructure, including tunnels, will be dismantled. Members who pledge to live peacefully will be granted amnesty, and those who wish to leave Gaza can. Palestinians will not be expelled from Gaza, and large amounts of humanitarian aid would be allowed and would be run by neutral international bodies, including the United Nations and the Red Crescent. So, Charles, this is a positive development, yeah?
Sure. I mean, how do I phrase this? Do you believe it or not? Is the question. I mean, are both sides going to adhere? And then all reality is the one side Netanyahu, is he actually going to abide by the terminologies in this? My gut check says absolutely freaking not. But again, I've not been, I have Jewish family members, and I will tell you, Netanyahu has been the worst thing to hit Israel, period, bar none, because he's literally like your leader and some of these other, nuts that are out there. And his mindset is total domination, and he will not stop. I don't care what the dear leader says. He's not going to stop at just a stalemate, so to say, or a conventional idea. So, I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I mean, maybe I am, but I have my doubts. I'm just going to put it.
Yeah, well, the thing with that coalition in Israel is that Netanyahu, for as bad as he is, and Netanyahu is a corrupt authoritarian, but he's not even the worst member of his own government. And what you might have to worry about isn't him so much as the right flank of his coalition, folks like Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, who have already criticized the plan's progress, but for their part, they didn't immediately threaten to leave the government over it, which is I don't know.
But I
Derrick,
have to say one
progress as things go over there.
to a degree, yes. But if you look at the mirrors, though, the mirrors between that government and our own at this point, the similarities, how I don't even know if disturbing is a strong enough terminology I can say, but things get said, yeah, we're gonna do this, yeah, we're gonna do this, and then immediate 180 on the other side because somebody pulls a string or ticks off the dear leader to make a different decision, or make it say, oh, I want to be a big bad dude in the parking lot, and then Yahoo's going to be the same thing. He's going to listen to those worst instincts, and I just don't see that playing out well in my mind. I mean, again, I hope I'm completely wrong, but
I think Netanyahu is here for the corruption and the staying out of prison. I don't know if he's an ideologue so much as those guys are, but that coalition is very, very fraught as it is. Derrick, we've joked about this before here. You're our resident Jew. What are your feelings on these things?
I'm not going to hold my breath on what's going on over there. How I hear it is they want to put out an olive branch so they could dismantle all the militant stuff inside the Gaza Strip. But what does that do to the Palestinians' military chances?
Mm-hmm.
If Israel comes in and dismantles their military, they will have no way to fight back. When in a year or two, Bibi and his crew goes, you know what? We're going to take it completely over. I mean, I don't want to be that kind of skeptic, but I've seen it over and over again with him, and especially his extreme right-wing allies within his party or his coalition. And I'm not going to hold my breath. I mean, it is a sad day right now for Israel, and I mean, I have no other words for it.
I guess let's if theoretically, hypothetically, this all works out. This is a peace plan drawn up and put forward by the Trump administration. Blythe, if I know it's hard to overlook all of the other horrible things they've did, which we've spent the entirety of our show and we'll probably spend the rest of our show talking about. If they deliver here, credit? Does Trump get his Nobel Peace Prize that he's been lusting after this whole time?
No, I think all of this is just covering their asses and another distraction from the Epstein list. And, it's still not acknowledging that Hamas was born out of resistance, right? And I'm not saying it's okay that anyone dies from any act of violence, I'm not justifying violence. But political violence is sometimes the only way things do get accomplished. I mean, it's it historically comes to that to save people. Um, and I think Derek's right. It doesn't matter what's agreed upon if the Palestinians are not cared for and given autonomy and ways to defend themselves indefinitely. It's going to. I mean, this has been going on for hundreds of years. This land has had this for forever.
Yeah,
This is
forever.
generational trauma. This is historical war, and it's not new. It's being weaponized further by other countries like America. So I don't. Trump is not a peacemaker, and he never will be.
I don't have a ton of hope, but it's, I guess, the most hopeful development we've seen here in a couple years, and I guess, fingers crossed that this finally ends the genocide that's happening over there. Frankly, I want to move on. So the final thing I want to talk about on the U.S. front here, and we will sort of bleed into the Indiana effects of this and deal with it as a unit, is the government shutdown. And it's funny, this, like we were talking about the spate of mass shootings, we've got this government shutdown, we got troops in the streets. Like, any one of these things would be like the only story in the news in a normal news week in our lifetimes. But here we are, we're talking about, the federal government is shut down here at the end of our segment, an hour plus into our show this week. So the federal government shut down, I want to say it was Wednesday the 1st, after Democrats and Republicans failed to agree on a continuing resolution for spending. We are entering the 5th day today, and Trump wants Democrats to support the Republican plan without concession. Democrats, on the other hand, are demanding a permanent extension of federal subsidies to help people afford health insurance under the Affordable Care Act, and have voted against this continuing resolution 4 times now. Republicans say the issue should be dealt with separately. I will interrupt here to ask you, Charles, do you think Republicans would, in good faith, negotiate Affordable Care Act subsidies after getting their continuing resolution?
In a word, no. I mean, let's. I mean, if you look at the totality of what's occurred, okay, they have zero interest in looking after basic human rights, and that's where this really all boils down to. Healthcare is a human right, just like housing, just like being fed. These things are something that should be fundamental to our everyday existence. And yet these folks are hell bent for leather on kicking people off of their health care or seeing their premiums triple in some circumstances and cases. I mean, it's insane. Now, is the ACA perfect? No, not by any stretch. It wasn't meant to be perfect. It was meant to be a springboard to get us further down the road to improve the country as a whole. Unfortunately, the Republicans have been dead set against doing any of that because it lessens corporate profits, it lessens the for-profit healthcare system, and it just so in a short answer to the question, that wasn't short, but short answer to this, absolutely not. They're not going to negotiate in good faith to do any of that. If anything, they will say, okay, give us our money now, and now we're going to go continue to do all these other horrific things that we've been doing anyway. That's what their intent is, and they've shown that card every single vote. Every single vote.
Yeah, we've talked about it, throughout the show already. The Trump administration governs or governed by extortion. They govern like a mob boss, and they're going to extract this concession, and then not only will they not negotiate, they'll take something else. So let's continue looking at what's going on with this shutdown. So pay has been suspended for roughly 2 million federal workers, with approximately 750,000 of them ordered not to work, and others, such as troops, like Blythe mentioned, and air traffic controllers, are required to work without pay. Social Security Administration will continue to issue retirement and disability benefits, but will furlough 12% of its staff. Payments will likewise continue under Medicare and Medicaid. SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, will continue operations as funds allow. The post office will continue to deliver mail. Like we said, the air traffic controllers will continue working, but without pay. Most TSA employees will continue working according to a statement from the agency, and approximately 2 million U.S. military personnel will remain at their posts without pay until the shutdown ends. So, Derrick, now, is this one of those instances where federal employees who are forced to work without pay could be the folks to bring this thing to an end? That's what happened, I believe, 5-6 years ago during the last government shutdown. TSA workers basically said, you know what? We're not working out without pay anymore. We're not coming in. That ended the shutdown relatively quickly.
I remember that shutdown quite well because at that time I was working for the logistics agency, the DLA, Defense Logistics Agency, and we actually had to go into work because we were still routing stuff to our military. So we had to still come in. I loved working for a couple weeks without pay. The really fun part is we didn't get the back pay. Usually no, we
Wow.
did not get the back pay. Congress never voted it in. Congress has to vote into back pay.
Was that just you and your folks doing similar things, or was that all
I
of the
know the
government employees?
DLA did not get paid, and I believe DFAS in general, because I worked up at DFAS up in Lawrence, and yeah, I mean we did not get that back pay. So I mean we worked for free for 2 weeks. 3 weeks?
Yeah, Derek, there was a story I just heard from a friend of ours that they were National Guard, and the first shutdown happened, or the last shutdown happened, cost them like $10,000 that
Yeah.
and they still to this day have not gotten that paper.
Yeah.
So this has some real long-term horrific ramifications for folks.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, it's amazing.
So
This
I mean,
goes to show, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Blythe. I'm sorry.
This goes to show how disconnected this administration and the wealthy is from humanity. I didn't realize that it's not good, but I thought that back pay was a thing. Like you go without pay and then you get caught up, which is hard enough. But people making these decisions don't understand how detrimental that one paycheck is for us.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that makes or break uh, your life, your insurance. Like it is destructive. And the ultra rich, the people in power or the people who want power don't understand that. They have no idea what it's like to live like that. And that's so horrible.
Yeah, they've never had
Yeah,
to make the
and
decision between keeping the lights on and putting food on the table, or hell,
Yeah.
even trying to put gas in the car to get to work to maybe afford food the next day.
Especially
They've
in this
never.
economy.
Right. Well, I mean,
Jesus.
yeah, I remember being an E3, and E3 pay was nothing at that time. But I mean, when you're sitting there, like you have to do all this stuff, and you might have $20 at the end of the pay period to maybe do something. And what do I mean, how do you, if you don't have that real world experience of that struggle, you're not going to understand it, and you're not going to care about it. And
Yeah.
and you're right, these ultra wealthy folks that have all these things.
yeah, sick of pinning
They-
that. We're going to see a real nice
All right.
example of this coming up as we talk about the shutdown's effects in Indiana here in a moment. But
Oh, yeah.
Derrick, that's scary that you guys didn't receive back pay, because usually, there have been a handful of government shutdowns in the last 30 years. I think it was Newt Gingrich that really popularized this technique, and it's always been Republicans that have used the shutdown to extract concessions. The Democrats finally do it. It's the end of the goddamn world, right? So, like, what are we fighting about here? So, the Democrats are using what little bargaining power here they have, and they've settled on these ACA subsidies as something they can try to extract, and that are largely popular and a lot of people depend on. But to be frank, like, this government, in any meaningful sense, has been shut down since Trump's inauguration in January 20th. So, it's not working like a proper federal government should. But so this is like one place Democrats have leverage. They are, so the law, the big beautiful bill, the big stupid bill passed in this summer, it clawed subsidies and healthcare away from a lot of people. So it leaves 10 million more Americans uninsured by rolling back Medicaid expansion and making changes to the marketplace. It removes those premium subsidies that allow people to afford healthcare. It also restricts payments to states for medical assistance, including emergency care furnished to anyone who isn't a citizen or lawful permanent resident. Now, in 1986, under raging leftist Ronald fucking Reagan, Congress passed a law requiring that anyone in need of emergency care receive it, regardless of who they are or their ability to pay. So Republicans are using this language here to skew the facts and say that Democrats are shutting down the government to provide health care for free to illegal immigrants. Now, are illegal immigrants even able to get free health care, right? So, undocumented immigrants are largely ineligible for federal health benefits. They don't qualify for comprehensive Medicaid coverage, Medicare, or the Children's Health Insurance Program, and they can't purchase subsidized health care plans on the ACA exchange. There are immigrants on Medicaid in the United States. These are so-called non-citizen enrollees. They account for about 6% of the total. These are people who are here legally. Not
paying
being a
taxes.
citizen. Not being a citizen is not the same as residing in the United States illegally. There are many ways to live here as a legal resident without getting full U.S. citizenship. And this is where this thing gets messy. So the Trump administration, what they've done this year is revoke people's legal status.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been here legally the whole time. For example, DHS canceled this humanitarian parole from the Biden era for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans. And DHS also revoked the temporary protective status of some Venezuelans, Haitians, and others. So these are people who were here legally, and now the Trump administration is designating them illegal to say, look, illegal immigrants are getting healthcare coverage. Blythe, am I reading that correctly? Is that what's going on? And is this even a fair argument?
They always spin things to make it look like they're correct, and they are not correct. And what they're really hiding is the fact that our immigrant neighbors and family and community are not only amazing human beings, but by and large, they're paying more taxes than Donald Trump or anyone who has millions of dollars at their disposal.
Mm-hmm.
They're paying a large percentage of their paychecks to Medicare, to Medicaid, to Social Security, and not receiving the fucking benefits from that. So it's all, everything that comes out of this regime is all a spin. It is all propaganda. It is all manipulated and misinterpreted, and people who believe them just eat it up. But we have to remember, over all of this, the approval ratings are tanked. So they've got a small percentage of the population that still believes them. But most people are realizing that this is really bad and it's not going to get better, whether it be Braun or Trump or any of them. So this is their extinction burst. They're grasping on for dear life.
Yeah. Charles?
I would just Blythe hit it perfectly on the head. But the one thing I wanted to mention, and what we tend to forget as a society and as a nation, we are all immigrants. Humans as a whole are immigrant. We migrate as a species. Okay,
Yeah.
so this idea of a human is legal or not legal or full, it's all just a matter of a piece of paper. And unfortunately, like you stated, with a flick of a pen, they said, okay, all these folks that you guys made all the requirements and did all these things, guess what? You don't matter anymore. And it really makes you question if rights can be extinguished by a stroke of a pen, were they really rights in the first place? Rights should be rights, period, end of story, long, full stop. And if you did everything right and came into this country the way you're supposed to, then you should have all the benefits and protections thereof. Now, if you're not, if you miss, and that's the sad part, they've made it to where if you miss a single thing, guess what? You're out, you're done. And it's
Yeah.
going to be the same thing with medicine, or with, if they get through the whole thing they want, you miss one follow-up statement or whatever. Where does it make sense? Make it make sense, because I can't get there. I just
It doesn't.
Yeah,
They
and that's
have
the thing.
to keep with this lie. And you mentioned human rights earlier. And here's what I wish would happen is that we somehow codify either in our constitution or the oaths that we take as soldiers or military personnel or elected officials what a human right fucking is. First and foremost, a human right should not be partisan. It does not belong to any party, and both parties need to be fucking standing up for human rights. Safe water, safe air, safe food, safe shelter, safe education, real education, safe existence. Voting should be a human right. Bodily autonomy should be a human right. Living, regardless of where you originated, is a human right. We cannot have a working, functioning country without immigrants, which we are immigrants. Anyone who is white was not originally fucking here. This land is stolen.
Yeah.
Human rights are not partisan.
Liberal. How dare you say those things?
I mean,
God.
You know
why
what?
does it even
Own it.
have to
Own it.
and that's a blanket statement for people who disagree with me. I think human rights should be awarded to everybody. My fucking Trump loving neighbor who would probably rather shoot up my house than agree with me on this should have access to human rights.
Yes. Yeah. They're human rights for all humans.
Yes.
Let's
It's nonpartisan.
look at the,
We should not be arguing about it.
Yeah. Let's look at the Indiana effects of this shutdown here for a little bit. So in the day after the shutdown, Mike Braun had a press conference. He talked a little bit. He said that he minimized the potential impact on Hoosiers, saying, quote, Indiana isn't as dependent on federal government largesse, end quote. Maury's lie detector says that's horse crap, because Indiana is in fact the third most reliant state when it comes to federal dollars. Now, Braun says we're going to get through it, and if Indiana does lose some benefits in the short run, if it's essential, we would look at maybe doing something to keep them in place. Real commitment there, Mike. But according to this story from the Indiana Capital Chronicle, a short shutdown will likely have a minimal impact on the day-to-day lives of Hoosiers, with the exception of the 24,000 federal employees here in Indiana. Some of those will stop being paid or could even be laid off following threats from Trump. His hatchet man there, Project 2025's Russell Vogt, is threatening mass firings in the wake of this here shutdown. So I've got some choice quotes pulled from Hoosier lawmakers regarding this shutdown, and I'm gonna get your response from them now. Derrick, this was the gentleman you ran against last year. 4th District Congressman Jim Baird says, quote, Democrats blocked it. Democrats shutting down the government to spend your hard-earned tax dollars on benefits for illegal immigrants and radical programs that increase the debt by $1.5 trillion. Derrick, tee off.
Fuck Jim Baird.
Don't hold back.
I'm not running against him this time, so know what? Fuck him.
Fuck him even if you are.
Yeah, he's a piece of crap. Really is. And he is a horrible spokesperson for veterans. He has completely torpedoed so many veterans bills, including the frickin' I just had a brain fart. That was one of my major frickin' talking points. Damn it.
Was it the PAC Act?
Yes. He torpedoed that, and I mean, people never frickin' heard of him doing that, because he's always like, I'm doing crap for veterans. No, you're not. And I don't know if you noticed, but I have some very strong feelings about that piece of shit. So
Yeah, I never saw that at all.
I gathered. Fair enough. Charles, who's your congressperson?
Shreve.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to find a way to frame it, but yeah, useless Shreve is about the way I would put the guy, because I mean,
Well, I'm glad
and-
we mentioned him because Jefferson Shreve, the thoughtful, solidaristic man that he is, in a post on Tuesday, said that he will not take a paycheck during the government shutdown, stating that he will donate that pay to the Johnson County Boys and Girls Club in Franklin. We should note that Mr. Shreve is worth something like $750 million. Charles, tee off.
I'm sorry. What I was just waiting. This is my BS flag. Okay, I'm sorry. I mean, it's just absolutely, like, if I could throw penalties, it would be the BS flag all over the place, because that. I mean, okay, applaud the statement. Okay, fine, whatever. It's total bull, because he may say he's going to do it, but actions speak louder than words. And this guy has been absolutely absent everywhere. Period, bar none. I mean, he has no spine. He goes along with the party line, and he's not. If he did anything for Johnson County, I would be dumbfounded. Absolutely, any of us for that matter, because I mean, the guy has voted against everything that would have been beneficial for any of the 6th district. Period. End of story. So I'm sorry, don't buy it. Nice try, but no, sorry.
And these plutocrat rich assholes like Shreve, like, oh, I'm gonna sacrifice my paycheck. Eat a dick, man. Like, he could single-handedly probably pay for every child who uses the Johnson County Boys and Girls Club to go to college. And
Still not misspeak.
We get, I don't know, just empty.
Yeah. He donates his whole $170,000 or whatever his paycheck is for however long the shutdown is. Whoop-de.
Yeah, right. It's
flip.
174 a year, so he's given up what? It's pocket change for this guy.
Yeah, it's peanuts. And again, is that going to affect his life in the slightest? Absolutely freaking not. But for those kids that go to the Boys and Girls Club, or any of those programs that are absolutely vital for those in our communities, you know, a day lapse in funding of that program would be devastating. Absolutely devastating. And again, these folks are just so disconnected, because once they get in these offices, the only thing they care about is their next election, next donor thing. I mean, they absolutely. Well, I'm sorry. On that side of the fence, that's all they care about. You know, I don't want to loop everyone into it, because there are actually good legislators out there. Unfortunately, we're just limited to having 2 in our state. So, or
yeah,
if you decide to redistrict or whatever that crap becomes.
Well, let's highlight one of our good legislators here. So, Democratic Congressman Andre Carson from Indianapolis said in his social media on Tuesday, he posted a photo from the House floor, emphasizing that he and his Democratic colleagues were actually there at work, and his Republican colleagues had already taken off. They were not interested in averting the shutdown. Carson says, quote, "I think it's clear that Democrats simply won't rubber stamp a spending package that leaves Americans without health care. Anyone who has had a health scare knows that health insurance isn't optional. We absolutely need it for our survival. And if people can't afford to go to a doctor's visit, they essentially won't go. And that leads to problems that could worsen if gone untreated. And Blythe, if I may, like if we learned anything from COVID 5 years ago, it's that healthcare, public health isn't an individual problem. If your neighbor's sick, you're gonna get sick.
Yeah.
If we depend on each other, we're a society. I don't know how to say it any simpler. Go, tee off.
Well, okay. So Jim Barrett saying that these radical programs are the problem. The only radical programs that are the problem are the programs in place to keep politicians wealthy. And I know I'm saying that as someone who's running for political office, but fuck that shit. Fucking Jefferson Shreve is a gaslighting asshole. I confronted him in June in person after a parade because he has consistently voted against the well-being of veterans, the elderly, including my parents who voted for him. He donated $7 million to his own congressional campaign. That motherfucker is going to be just fine. And I would love to see the receipts of him actually donating any money to the Boys and Girls Club in Johnson County. As a Johnson County fucking resident for the bulk of my life, I have seen what these Republicans and their policies have done to our environment and our community because it forces them to rely on these 501c3s to exist because we can't fucking fund social programs to take care of everybody and not just our politicians. That is what we have social welfare for, is politicians, millionaires, and billionaires. That is exactly what it is. Andre Carson is correct. I love him. Not supported by AIPAC. Bravo, sir. I mean, it is just... Yes, COVID. If we don't know by now in 2025 how detrimental healthcare and healthcare workers are to our existence as fucking humans, we are learning nothing.
Absolutely.
100%. And, as feckless Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries likes to quote occasionally, if you don't know, now you know. So let's bring this thing fully into Indiana as we've, talked about the shutdown and its effects here. Let's have a little, maybe not fun, but let's have a little speed run through some of the other headlines in the state and go around the corn. The top story in Indiana this weekend: former NFL quarterback Mark Sanchez was stabbed in downtown Indianapolis, and the immediate response from Mike Braun and other Republicans in Indiana was, "Oh my God, look at Indianapolis, and the crime is out of control, and oh, please get well, Mr. Sanchez. I've never known you to be anything other than a wonderful family man." It turns out Sanchez instigated a fight with a 69-year-old delivery man outside of a local establishment. The Sanchez is a large man. This is a former professional athlete. He's like 6'5", 200-something pounds of like swole. Gets in a fight with the 69-year-old delivery man. The delivery man attempts to use pepper spray on Sanchez to no avail, and only subdued the former quarterback by stabbing him. Sanchez was taken to the hospital in critical condition, where he was stabilized, and later placed under arrest by Indianapolis police for being the person who instigated the fight, and he faces 3 counts, including public intoxication, assault, and others. So I don't know, man. Derrick, you got thoughts on this one?
I mean, like I just said, it's like, talk about stabbing a bitch for over tacos. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, tacos are important, but not that bad.
Tacos are life, I will say. Other quick stories around the state this week. So from the Indiana Capital Chronicle, Mike Braun has denied clemency to death row inmate Roy Lee Ward, setting him up for execution on October 10th. We also learned, this is from WRTV Channel 6 in Indianapolis, that criminal charges are not filed in 30% of child abuse and neglect deaths, according to data from the DCS. Blythe, do you have a comment on that one? Yeah, I got nothing.
You want to see my shocked face?
Yes.
Like,
I understand.
it's all about the children.
It is all about the children. The Harmony Gist, the DCS Deputy Director of Strategic Solutions and Agency Transformation, emphasized that prosecutors have a higher burden of proof in domestic cases like this. She says it gets very gray. It's very difficult to prove things and to bring cases like this to trial.
I disagree.
We'll follow up on this further, but it is certainly concerning.
I'd like to see the demographic of this 38%, because if it's white men being accused of that and not being charged versus the other population of people who might be females or people of color or other, I would like more information.
Very, very interesting, observations, and I'm gonna dig a little deeper into that. I think this is a very, very a high level article here. They didn't get into a lot of the details, but we'll check on that some more. Also this week, we talked. We're following the continual redistricting drama as Republicans are trying to force through that. One group has filed a public records request for public for comments for communications between the White House and Indiana Republicans. Meanwhile, many Hoosiers gathered at a town hall in Indianapolis on Monday night to share their thoughts on redistricting. Charles, would you like to share yours?
I think, well, first off, the whole redistricting thing, it should not be a thing. I think gerrymandering should be eliminated entirely, full stop. I think we should do a universal reset, make it a level playing field for everybody, and make them compete on merit, or make them compete on the issues, on the policies, on who they are as a candidate. This thing of where the dear leader thinks he's entitled to have more people at his disposal to do his bidding. I mean, that's how kings and dictators and authoritarians and fascists go through things. So, and if you look at the statistics at the Hoosier populace, it is universally negative against this idea. I mean, it's like, I think in the 70s some odd last time I looked at this idea that people do not want this to happen. I mean, what's the point? I mean, you go through all the Mickey Mouse, you spend over 200, 300 grand to bring in a special session and to achieve what? One seat, maybe? I mean, it makes, again, why? All right, if they're that scared to run on policy, that has to tell you something. And that's what this is. It's just indicating they're scared.
Always been the plan, right? I mean, Republicans haven't had popular policy in decades and have relied on gimmicks like gerrymandering and voter suppression to keep themselves in power. It's gross. A couple other quick headlines I did just want to get on the record here. So ICE detainees are due to start arriving at the Miami Correctional Facility up there near Kokomo. Also, a court has ruled that Indiana can require biological sex on birth certificates, blocking updates for transgender Hoosiers. In local media, Indiana public media is seeing huge layoffs as program cuts from federal and the state government are leaving public media without funding. Indiana is one of the hardest hit states after only West Virginia, Alaska, New Mexico, and Montana. Only those states relied more on public money for their public broadcasting than Indiana did. Finally, in Morgan County, a data center project is advancing to the county commissioners for a vote despite major community pushback. Say, Derrick, you live in Morgan County.
Yeah, and I was there. They're I mean, it's money going to corporations, and screw those of us who have to pay the electric bill and the water. And, not like Morgan County doesn't already have horrible toxic plumes and PFAS chemicals in our water as it is. Might as well just add more crap to it. But hey, yay, data centers. 10 jobs.
Listen, though, have we considered the potential positive effects from all of the pollution and the PFAS and all that stuff, that maybe we're going to develop an army of super mutants?
Ooh. Can I sign up? I want like laser eyes. Yeah.
All right. So I want to move on and talk a little bit about some of the downstream effects from SB1. Now, we recall that was the major property tax bill passed by the state assembly this spring. So I've got a fun story here, again, from the Indiana Capitol Chronicle. And all of you, just take a second and go subscribe to them if you're not already. The most indispensable news site in the state, hands down. Props to Nikki Kelly and her team of journalists over there. So, but this from them, credit rating agencies are flagging the property tax bill for creating uncertainty for local bonds. Now, this is S&P Global Ratings. They provide independent credit ratings and research. They warned that the new law enacted earlier this year creates uncertainty for local income tax-backed debt, according to a recent story in the very exciting sounding industry publication, The Bond Buyer. Now, at this point, according to S&P Associate Director John Sauter, he said, at this point, we believe it's too soon to assess how these changes will influence our ratings, but a report co-authored by Sauter flags concerns with the new provisions of the wide-ranging bill, which limited local tax growth and has left some municipalities scrambling to continue providing government service. Now, I will ask, Blythe, because I think it's been a minute since I came to you. It seems what we've done with the federal government, slashing spending and programs and social services and Medicaid and things to the states. They put the onus on the states to take care of these things. Well, our state is further cutting and kicking putting the onus down on like county and municipal governments, but they also are limiting the county and municipal government's ability to do things like issue bonds or raise taxes to provide these services themselves. Well, is there any way to make that up? I mean, are people just screwed?
We are screwed. And I want to say this, and I hope that every Hoosier in some capacity will hear this over the next year. The only way out of this mess is to vote them all out from the local level up. The local level in most counties in Indiana are run by Republicans and have been for decades, Johnson County included. They supported Mike Braun. They voted him in. They are in this together, regardless of how ignorant they were before SB1 came down the pipe. We have to get rid of them and hold them accountable. And the way we do that is to fucking vote them out. The lower people are on the ballot, the closer it is to home. We are being screwed left and right by Republicans. I don't think there's a way to get around. I mean, it is going to hurt more before it gets better. It will not get better with Republicans in control. Now, I'm not saying Democrats are free from blame of complacency or helping to get us here, but progressive, Bernie style Democrats are the only way out of this in a system that we are stuck with only two viable options for parties. We have to vote them out. We will. I do not foresee, I could be wrong. I would love for the Republicans to prove me wrong. I would love them to give me the third finger emoji and be like, hey, Blythe, watch this. We're going to fucking fix this and do the right thing for once. That'd be amazing. I don't see it happening. They might bandage things to make it look a little better before next year. But most of these people on the local level are up for re-election next year. Get
Mhm.
rid of them. Vote in people who are going to hold Governor Braun and all of his little Republican minions accountable, and get rid of them.
Yeah, and you made a nice point about the deception, because like so many of these cuts, I mean, we're talking about some of the cuts and we're seeing at the local over here, but a lot of this stuff at the federal level isn't going to kick in until after the midterms. So the
On
worst of
purpose.
it, yes, the worst.
They
Yeah,
will
you're not going
blame
to see the
us.
worst of it until after the election.
Yep.
So I want to, Charles, I want to give this one to you and sort of point out the details. The point out an example of the actual effects of these cuts and what they mean for cities and towns. So, just in Indianapolis, and I got a story here from Mirror Indy. So, Indianapolis schools, libraries, and local governments are set to lose about $16 million in property tax revenue as the county's top health agency maneuvers to make up for steep state budget cuts. So, what's happening here is for more than a decade, state lawmakers gave the municipal corporation $38 million a year to help cover the cost of providing medical care to low and income uninsured patients at Eskenazi Health. That's Indy's public hospital system. And in exchange, the amount of property taxes HHC could collect from Marion County residents was reduced by $35 million each year. But now that deal is over. The state support for Eskenazi Health was eliminated in the 2026 budget passed by the Republican supermajority. So now, listen, we still have to take care of these things. We still have to, have hospitals and provide public health. But without the money, the city has to rob Peter to pay Paul, and Peter in this case is schools, libraries, and local government entities, the townships inside of Indy there. Charles, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it pretty much right on the nose. I mean, unfortunately, the real effects of this at a local level is that, local public services are going, I mean, every city, county, town, municipality in Indiana is going to take a hit. Some are going to take bigger hits than others, but when you look at what that translates to, that's impact on local fire departments, township fire departments. We've seen that here in Hancock County. For the first time, they had to come to our county commissioners and say, hey, we're going to need extra funding because of these losses. That's the first time ever that they've had to do that. It can impact law enforcement. It can impact local municipal utilities in a certain fashion because municipal utilities are going to have to supplement more to the civil city, and that creates other conundrums and problems with all the other things that they have to face, which that's a whole other story in itself. But when it comes right down to it, basically they're just shifting the burden. They're playing a shell game, and unfortunately, yeah, it's great. You're going to save what, $300 on property taxes, but you're going to end up getting so much more taken away in local services and especially public libraries and those things. And healthcare is already, again, why we keep hitting healthcare as as they keep taking away funding from it is I don't know. It confuses me to no end because it makes zero sense. If anything, we should be taking that funding and investing more in our
Yeah.
healthcare services and our public education system. I mean, again, and I know this goes off on tangent with the voucher thing, but it's all the same thing. They're just anything they can do to make it harder on folks that are already struggling. That's what's going to happen, and it makes zero sense because they don't look at these things as human rights. They don't look at these things as necessary for everybody to exist.
And the investment in things like this upfront winds up saving money in the long run. We just keep kicking the can down the road, and every time we kick the can, some capitalist takes a cut, it seems like. And so, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned education, because there are a couple education stories in the state that I wanted to talk about this week. So, Indianapolis Public Schools on Friday opposed any plan to create a future all charter school system in the district in a letter to the Indianapolis Local Education Alliance. If you recall, this ILEA was a state mandated group meant to sort of reform and merge and get the city's public schools and charter schools all working together. In this letter from the 7-member school board is a litany of requests from to the ILEA, signed by all 7 board members. It is the first public list of requests the board has made to the group. Now, the IPS board said in its statement it rejects the notion that a shift to an all-charter system is the solution for education in our community. Derrick, it seems to me that the folks in Indianapolis are finally growing a spine and pushing against this charterization of IPS schools.
Yeah, it's about time. I mean, IPS has already lost plenty of high schools to the charter system. And I mean, I think they're down to what, 3 high schools now? Tech, Washington, and Howe, I believe, are the last 3. So yeah, I'm glad they're finally growing a spine.
And we will keep an eye on this one for sure. Obviously, as the state's largest and most diverse school system, IPS is always going to come under threat from the Republicans at the State House. Another thing, coming under threat from Republicans at the State House are school teachers' rights to have free speech in their time off. If you recall, after the Charlie Kirk assassination a couple weeks ago, there was much consternation from Braun and many Rokita, especially with threats to fire public school teachers who they said were glorifying political violence, when in fact all they were really doing was maybe quoting Charlie Kirk's actual words verbatim, or saying or pointing out the irony in somebody who fomented political violence being the victim of it, which by my count is not the same as supporting political violence. But I did want to point out, we saw from Chalkbeat, Indiana this week that 2 weeks after this, the full impact of Braun and Rokita's calls for firing or license revocation, they remain unclear, but no cases have been filed to revoke a teacher's license, and any school board meetings where teacher statements were in the spotlight have remained mostly tame. Blythe, it seems like, I guess that's a good thing. The initial fury over that incident is sort of petering out, and there won't be any long-term effects for our public school teachers? Or am I getting my hopes up?
It's just part of their cycle. I mean, we as opposition, not necessarily liberals, because not everyone opposing this is liberal, we are shamed and mistreated and threatened anytime we have an opinion. And most of these teachers, what they said was not wrong. It was like, did we hear what Charlie was saying? Like, this is irony. This is his words haunting him, literally. And that type of fear going forward, especially for teachers, this isn't the first time Rokita has gone after teachers. And because he did it with teachers who were supporting the LGBTQ plus community with rainbow flags, like, it is constant. They are looking for any reason possible to have us be on the defense and be literally and figuratively attacked. So while it may have calmed down, like, the implications to these personal lives and professional lives of these teachers, the damage is done. Like, it's like the Monica Lewinsky effect. She was the one blamed for their consensual affair. Make it make sense. Like, so it's just, yeah, she's still dealing with it. So these teachers, the damage is done. I know the woman from Ball State I believe professor got her job back and is also maybe suing or was. I would need to fact check that. There's always so much
She
new news to
was
remember.
support staff. She wasn't a professor, but yeah,
Oh,
that
okay.
is ongoing. Yeah.
Oh, and she was a social worker or something, right?
Yeah,
I can't
something
remember.
like
But in any event, it's not over. Like the news might be over it, social media might be over it, but I would love to hear from these people who were on the receiving end of this if they are brave enough to speak out, like to tell their story. How is this affecting you still? Because I guarantee you it is. The teachers with the rainbow flags, it is still affecting them. It
Yeah,
happens in
Rapita
Center
still has
Grove.
his. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is a terrorist. This is domestic terrorism. Why are we not calling it this? Todd Rokita does not care for Hoosiers. Todd Rokita is the villain. Todd Rokita needs to go. He is completely demolishing his oath to the law, demolishing his oath to our state and our constitution. He is a horrible human being. And
Yeah,
anyone who
yeah.
supports him, they are also horrible.
Yeah, Todd Rokita is a radical far right ultra like Catholic extremist, and I urge our American Pope to excommunicate him. Not that he's listening to me. So
Hey, you never know, man. It's worth trying.
And
I want to.
I believe it's pronounced Da Pope.
Da Pope. I want to stay on higher education and look at a couple things. Charles, you brought this up earlier, and I wanted to bring it back to you. So you mentioned this $35 million Purdue college prep program that the administration has canceled. So this from WFYI, Public Media in Indianapolis. Purdue University will abruptly end a statewide initiative to help more than 13,000 low-income Indiana students go to college after it was targeted in the Trump administration's campaign against diversity, equity, and inclusion. The administration canceled this nearly $35 million federal grant to Purdue for Gear Up. That's the name of the program. Sounds like a acronym. I'm not going to figure out what it is, but it was a federally funded program to boost college readiness and access, providing after-school mentoring and college prep programs in 10 districts across the state. It will shut down Tuesday. This grant was just awarded last year and was expected to run through 2031, according to a press release from Purdue's College of Education. It was the 6th largest federal grant in university history, the release said. So, Charles, what do you think here? What are your thoughts on this? Attack on Indiana higher education, an attack on students in from less privileged backgrounds getting a chance to attend one of the great public universities in our country. And I'm saying that as an IU grad.
That had to hurt.
Yeah, I was about to say that you may have to take a little time to recover from that one.
Whoa, what?
Anymore,
No,
Scott.
Don't get me started on Ohio State, though. All right.
Well, we're gonna leave that one aside. So this one hits kind of close to me because I in my professional life I'm working towards we have a dwindling workforce in water and wastewater, and one of these things that we're trying to do is establish pipelines for kids to pursue these avenues that are out there. And this Purdue program would have, it helps people along those ways that wouldn't have had access to these opportunities previously, just due to circumstance beyond their control. I mean, a lot of these kids that are in these programs are absolutely fabulous minds. I mean, they have some of the greatest ideas. They come up with, I mean, just things that and I hate to put myself in this bracket, the older generation now, I guess, that, we're not thinking it. They're thinking outside the box, they're coming up with real, I mean, just fabulous stuff. And yet now this opportunity has been yanked out of their, yanked away from them for no reason, period, other than it hurts somebody's feelings. And and this demonization of the idea of diversity, equity, inclusion. Let me tell you, as a veteran, absolutely, we are absolutely benefits of that program. Okay, each every physically challenged individual in our state absolutely benefit from that type of idea. ADA compliance. Sorry to tell you, that's DAI. Okay, and then what are you going to do? Start taking away ramps and elevators for people to get up and down and things? And that's exactly what they did in education. They took away an elevator or a ramp for these folks to contribute positively in our future.
That's a good
And
metaphor.
again, it just absolutely goes counterintuitive to everything we're supposed to stand for as a country. Because what do we say at the end of the Pledge of Allegiance? Or liberty and justice for all. Sorry, that don't apply if you don't happen to meet the requirements. So sorry, I
And
may have went on.
no, you're 100%, and it's like we talked about earlier. By failing to bring in diverse voices, we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. I mean, the thing is that, like, we don't know a lot of folks from privileged backgrounds. They don't know what they don't know. And when you give people with diverse backgrounds and points of view and opportunity, they're gonna look at problems that we've been unable to solve for generations through different lenses, and that's how we make progress as a society. This crap is just putting us backwards. It is just cementing the old white moneyed class in place further. And Purdue, they're getting theirs, and they're not alone in Indiana. IU, my alma mater, is also being harmed by these policies as well. We saw a couple stories this week on that end from Mirror Indy. They're researchers from the IU School of Medicine. They had submitted a grant to the NIH to study and treat childhood urinary tract inventions, which may be a precursor to one of the deadliest diseases in the state. Their project scored well in the competitive application process. Any other year, it would be a no-brainer. But again, it's 2025, and Donald Trump's administration has gutted the NIH, slashing the largest public funder of medical research in the world, including grants and projects that focus on the health of racial minorities, women, and LGBTQ people, and also pediatric cancer, which is another project at IU that has come under attack. So we got the one for the childhood urinary tract infections, and then another grant was canceled as well. This is from the Elon Musk Doge thing. You guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Weren't they supposed to save us a bunch of money? Yeah, it wound up costing more money than it saved. But
what happens when you take a chainsaw?
I use Simon. Yeah, I use Comprehensive Cancer Center. Supports nearly 250 researchers conducting research on all phases of the cancer spectrum. In 2018, the center managed 380 clinical trials. In 2023, they received more than $243 million from the NIH. And, by this year, all of that is under threat, for medical researchers at IU, Purdue, and Notre Dame. This dismantling at the NIH has meant an abrupt loss of total between the three institutions of over $24.5 million. So, you guys like being sick? Big fan of that. Childhood cancer. Huh? Everybody loves childhood cancer. Of all the things you'd think we could agree need research, that we could childhood cancer. My God, man. Eric,
no child should have to suffer on that. No one should have to suffer that period, but especially children.
Yeah.
They are our future, and if we don't invest in our future, what are we doing? I'm just make it make sense.
The last thing I have in Indiana this week, we did see, and we touted it last week a little bit, a major forensic audit of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, highlighting their lackluster oversight and questionable spending. Now, this audit, we got this released Thursday after a legal review It's part of an ongoing effort by Governor Braun to reform the IEDC, or as he says, reform it. Now, again, this is a public-private company, has started under the Mitch Daniels governorship here in Indiana, and has essentially existed as just a big sloppy slush fund for well-connected donors to fatten their own wallets. So the final 127-page report reviewed practices of the past and provides recommendation for future actions. One thing it does not do is suggest there was anything illegal going on. Corruption? Sure. Skirting the rules? Yeah, maybe being shady, not transparent. Okay. But nothing illegal. So in addition to the IEDC and its foundation, the audit also focused on Elevate Ventures, who we've talked about before, the Applied Research Institute, and the LEAP District in Boone County. The review ran from January 1st of 22 to December 31st, 2024. Okay, that's a 3-year period. Now, again, IEDC has been around since 2005. Well, just over the 3-year period from 2022 through 2024, the review identified 107 entities that donated $6 million. 16 donors made up 78% of the total, including NIPSCO, Duke Energy, CenterPoint Energy, AES Indiana, Indiana Michigan Power, and Hoosier Energy, among others. So that is like all of the state's big electric utilities. Now, the identity of 8 others is still shielded by a state law that prohibits public agencies from requiring nonprofits to share their personal information. Here's the big stat that I want to take away from this. Of the 107 entities that made donations to the foundation, 46 of them were identified as having received $238 million in either direct payments or tax credits from the IEDC during the review period. And my question to you, Derrick, is if there's that much corruption, that much self-dealing in only that 3-year period, what the hell was happening between 2005 and 2022?
Somebody got extremely freaking rich in that time. I mean, just 3 years, that much. Just go back 20 years.
And I will point out, we know who the people who got very rich in that time were from a very important investigative piece from the Indianapolis Star last week, which detailed some folks nicknamed the Three Kings, a former IEDC commissioner and others who directed a ton of state money to themselves and their businesses. I will put that in the show notes again, which I recommend folks subscribe. So to Project Next, Indiana.com or at HoosLeft.us, you get the show notes either way. They serve as a pretty good newsletter of just what's going on in the state throughout the week. Regardless, last one here, we finally got a log of all the state travel expenses by statewide officials this week, showing one Diego Morales as the top statewide official in travel spending once again. Now, the state officials logged roughly $97,000 in state expenses for trips across the state and the country, according to new reports filed Wednesday. This includes Governor Braun, his cabinet secretaries, and all statewide office holders for the 2025 fiscal year, which ran from July 1st of 2024 to the end of June this year. So that does only account for the first 6 months of the Braun administration. A new state law mandates reporting of this every October 1st. Now, the legislature passed the bill on the heels of controversy when Secretary of State Diego Morales left the country for an international trip without disclosing who paid for his travel. Now, it turns out it wasn't paid for by the state. This was paid for by a conservative group. But again, Morales spends a lot of time gallivanting around the globe. State might not be paying for it, but we're paying for his time, and he's not using it on us. Say, Blythe Potter, you're running for this man's seat. Do you have comments?
Oh, I have so many comments. Oh my God. Well, this is my shocked face. Diego Morales is so fucking corrupt. Again, our entire regime is corrupt. And this goes back to, I will say it a million times, probably until the day I die. The people, us, who are the end users of policy and politicians are the ones that should be running the government, not the billionaires, not the millionaires, not the little Diegos who are stuck in the pockets of large corporations and car dealers. The people who are the end users need to be the ones in charge because we know how this is affecting our communities. We see it all the fucking time, from dishwashers and cars to computers and phones and politics. The end users are never paid attention to when this is being done. When we are constructing policy and legislation and making decisions like traveling the fucking world or hiring our brother-in-law, the end users are not in mind. And that has to change. That is how we get rid of, not all, but the bulk of the corruption and bad policy and bad legislation. We have to vote these people out and not vote people in who are basically Republicans in drag. And going back to the auditor thing, there is an auditor spot open on the ballot next year. How great would it be to get a Democrat elected into the auditor's office and then they can go through and audit the fuck out of the Republicans?
We've seen what a little
this
bit
is
of
not
auditing
isolated.
can uncover. Yeah,
Huh?
and that is Republican on Republican auditing. Imagine if you could get a real aggressive Democratic
Wouldn't that be
auditor
amazing
in there.
to have a Democrat alongside me on the ticket next year to go on that's their platform? Let's figure the real corruption out.
Indeed. All right. So, it's already 12:45 now. I only had you guys scheduled till 1. I know if you've got to run, I understand, but I did bring a panel of all veterans here to talk about our one big thing this week, which was the declaration of war on a large chunk of the American people by our president and the Secretary of Vodka, Pete Hegseth. So this from the Associated Press, where I will begin. So President Donald Trump on Tuesday proposed using American cities as training grounds for the armed forces and spoke of needing U.S. military might to combat what he called the invasion from within. Addressing an audience of military brass abruptly summoned to Virginia, and mind you, this is a highly unusual thing to bring all of the country's top generals and admirals from all over the globe to sit in the same room as the president of the United States. I mean, boy, good thing there wasn't a bomb dropped on this thing. My God. But during this meeting, Trump outlined a muscular and at times norm-shattering view of the military's role in domestic affairs. He was joined by Drinky Pete, who declared an end to the woke culture and announced new directives for troops that include gender-neutral or, quote, male-level standards for physical fitness. The dual messages underscored the Trump administration's effort not only to reshape contemporary Pentagon culture, but to enlist military resources for the president's priorities and for decidedly domestic purposes, including quelling unrest and violent crime. Trump said, quote, "We should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military. We're under invasion from within, no different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. The enemy within, hey, that's us."
It's the enemy from within is Donald Trump.
Yeah, after calling all these leaders and advisors from the world to the Marine Corps base in Quantico, Hegseth focused on, culture war talking points that painted a picture of a military hamstrung by woke policies. And he said leaders should do the honorable thing and resign if they don't like his new approach. So I guess I want to open things up there and ask you, Derrick, should they? Or should military leaders stay in place to maybe push back on these policies?
It is their sworn duty to push back on these policies.
Yeah.
I mean, for Hegseth to say that and Captain Bonespurs to talk about it, I mean, hell, they were talking about fat generals in the Pentagon. Look at our commander in fucking chief.
The fattest general of them all.
Like, Jesus. I mean, I'm not skinny by any freaking means, but good God, I'm not running the military. So,
Well, no one in this administration is actually running the military or anything else into the ground.
Yeah.
And then to that point, I mean, when you talk about weight standards and all that stuff, I mean, there are certain jobs. I mean, there are certain, like, okay, full disclosure, I was an MS, which is a mess management specialist in the Navy. Okay, I was a cook. Now, one thing I've always learned in that industry: don't trust the skinny cook. Okay, there's something wrong in that picture. Okay, but you still have to adhere to the military. You know, you still have to adhere to whatever the physical standards are. Now, grant you, for my height, I was supposed to be 185 pounds. Did I ever hit that mark? I'm going to tell you, the last time I saw 180 was south of boot camp. Okay, that's just not going to happen. But the flip side of that is we still could do our jobs, which is all that matters. As long as you can do your job and do it well, carry on smartly. Okay. Now, I mean, there are reasonable limits, obviously, to that. But I mean, this idea that there's dual standards for, you know, this person or that person or whatever, that doesn't exist. That's all bull crap. I'm sorry.
But there are there are bad
Well,
standards
okay.
in the military.
There are.
And what this
Right.
and to your point, Charles, I mean, I was skinnier than I am now in the military, and I was always overweight. I always had to be taped. I was always not hitting those marks. My minimum weight at 5'10" was 119 pounds. Can you imagine me 70 pounds lighter?
No, I'm sorry.
So,
That's math.
and while push-ups and sit-ups in the run might have had different standards, we have the same standards on the battlefield.
Exactly.
And to say that a few extra push-ups would make me a better female soldier or a little bit faster run or a few more sit-ups is fucking garbage.
You know, I'm glad you guys are sort of talking about the physical standards here thing, because Hegseth focused on that and made a big deal out of it, and he likes to show off the poor form on his own pull-ups. Not that I can't talk. I can't do one at this point, I don't think, but still. Like, that's not the kind of war we fight anymore. It's 2025, man. We are not running across the field carrying a bayonet and engaging in hand-to-hand combat. I don't know how fit you have to be to fly a drone.
I mean, that kind of combat will happen in our backyards, in our streets. That is more likely to happen on American soil than anywhere else around the world.
I'm glad you brought that up, and thank you, because I wanted to bring up this enemy within thing, all right? Because I don't mean to be trite, like, it's not just a rhetorical technique by Trump. It is like there are documents behind this, okay? And this went under the radar again because here we are in the middle of this like fire hose of bullshit. That big stuff goes unnoticed because there's so much going on. Well, we got this last week. It is a national security presidential memorandum, and NSPM 7. It's called by administration insiders, and Ken Klippenstein over on Substack has a very good detailed explanation of this thing. This is not just like an executive order, okay? This is more comprehensive. This actually is an all of government effort to describe, well, he says to dismantle left-wing terrorism, but let's look at what they call left-wing terrorism. Okay, so here in NPSM 7, Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence, Trump directs the Justice Department, the FBI, and other national security agencies and departments, and local police forces too, mind you, to fight his version of political violence in America, retooling a network of joint terrorism task forces to focus on leftist political violence in America. This vast counterterrorism army, made up of federal, state, and local agents, would, as Trump aide Stephen Miller said, form the central hub of that effort. And SPM 7 directs a new national strategy to disrupt any individual or groups that foment political violence, including, and this is a key phrase, before they result in violent political acts. So, in other words, like the movie Minority Report, they're targeting pre-crime. The administration isn't only targeting organizations or groups, but even individuals and entities whom NSPM 7 says can be identified by any of the following indicators of violence: anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the United States government, extremism on migration, extremism on race, extremism on gender, hostility toward those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, or morality. And it shouldn't be necessary for me to tell you that the Trump administration has a very expansive definition of what things like anti-Americanism, anti-Christianity, and, extremism on gender and race mean. I'm wearing the shirt, but I'm not joking. I'm pretty sure they're describing me to a T.
Oh, it's describing all of us.
But if you want to take it literally, it is describing them. They are anti-American. They are anti-Christian. They're pro-capitalism, but it's toxic capitalism. They are anti-conscious capitalism. They are the enemy. They are the terrorists.
Exactly. And so what you see here is now we have official government direction from the administration to target domestic enemies. And now, as I understand, that is not what the United States Armed Forces are for. The United States Armed Forces are for fighting enemies abroad. Do I understand that correctly, Charles? Is there any appropriate use for active duty American troops against the enemy within?
In this context, absolutely not. The United States military was never intended to fight against our own people. And you go back and you look at Posse Comitatus Act, you look at
Grab him by the Posse Comitatus.
Right. And, and this is where, again, if there was if you roll it back in history to this, the Civil War period, okay, that was one thing. But since that point, no. And that point doesn't exist. The physicality of war on the domestic front does not exist. Only in their delusional mindset does this even predominate itself. So at no point should the United States military ever be used against Americans, full stop, period. Now, National Guard troops, they're kind of stuck in this weird halfway between because they have to deal with domestic, with the, good God, talk about brain parts.
Well, they are used for domestic things like natural disasters.
Thank you. That's where I was trying to get to.
Actual, literal,
violent
scenarios. Riots.
But they can be used. I mean, look, what we're seeing, Trump is deploying National Guard troops, like full circle, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, Chicago and Portland, just like they've done in Los Angeles and Memphis and other places until now. You are allowed to deploy national Guard troops to quell unrest, like I believe in 1992 during the LA riots was the last time the Insurrection Act was invoked. Now we can argue about whether that constitutes an insurrection under any means, but situations like that do call for deployment of the Guard for a very limited set of purposes. Yes.
But that should be peacekeeping. This is not, here's what a deployment is. And I don't agree with us having been in Iraq, but here's a deployment. A deployment is you get orders, you have time to prepare. You have time to prepare your will, you have time to prepare your family, your childcare, your job. That is how a deployment works with Guard and reserves, typically. Now, in an emergency, not necessarily, but there's training that leads up to that. Training that leads up to hurricane relief, tornado relief, disaster relief. There is training for that. There is not training for this. There is no deployment for this. There is no deployment where you are taking your soldiers, your troops, and saying, okay, they're peacefully protesting, go fucking get them. There is not deployment and preparation for this. We are not trained for that. As a military police soldier,
California, right, Blythe?
Yeah,
like, they were just called up, sent into this. Like they basically had nowhere to stay.
Yes.
This is National Guard. This is reserves. These are people who actually have like day jobs,
and most of them aren't trained like me to have used riot gear as military police. Most of them, this is a sentence. This is trauma. This is they are, as always, using military and veterans as pawns. These are our pawns that they are putting in place and making us, our sisters and brothers in arms who are currently serving, they are using us as pawns. They are using us for really ill-intended results.
And there is a very key distinction between military law enforcement and civilian law enforcement.
Yes.
It's two distinctly different ballgames.
And civilian law enforcement has roots in slavery, and it should not be treated in this capacity. Military and civilian law enforcement should be peacekeeping, keeping people safe.
Yeah, this is one of those things. I think this came up a lot in 2020 during the George Floyd protests and just the protests in general against police brutality. Is that military police are soldiers. There are rules of engagement, right? There are certain steps you're supposed to go through before you actually point a weapon or deploy a weapon. Whereas police in this country are held, it seems, to a lesser standard against our own civilian populations.
The people who pay their salaries.
So this is, that's problematic in its own right. So, but I guess in a way I'm heartened. I saw this one. This is from Military Times. So according to this article, 4 in 5 U.S. troops surveyed understand their duty to disobey illegal orders. So as you recall, on August 11th, Trump announced he was going to send the National Guard to D.C., to fight crime, edging U.S. troops closer to the kind of military-civilian confrontations that, cross ethical and legal lines is an understatement to say the least. So apparently this is affecting troop morale. This is the moral injuries of this operation, I think, will be enduring, said one National Guard member who had deployed to quell the unrest in Los Angeles. Like Blythe said, it's trauma, right? Troops who are ordered to do something illegal are in a bind, so much so that some argue that the troops themselves are harmed when given such orders. You guys are not trained in legal nuance. You are conditioned to obey. And yet, if you obey a, quote, manifestly unlawful order, you can be prosecuted. And some analysts fear that, U.S. troops are ill-equipped to recognize that threshold. However, like we said, you're compelled to disobey, right? Each and every one of you, as a member of the armed services, take an oath to uphold the Constitution. Under Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, service members must obey lawful orders and disobey unlawful orders. And this poll conducted by Military Times, from middle of June to the end of July this year, does show that service members understand these rules. Of the 818 active duty troops they surveyed, just 9% stated they would obey any order. Another 9% didn't know, and 2% had no comment. So that is about 4 in 5 understand the duty to disobey illegal orders. Now, I guess what I want to focus on from that article is, are troops all versed in what is and what is not an illegal order?
No, we aren't trained. We are not trained on how to respond to an illegal order. That is one thing we aren't trained to do. And I think that's why the veteran movement right now involved in this opposition is so important. Probably the scariest thing I've witnessed this regime is the generals being called. In that meeting, my job was to keep a general alive, the highest ranking officer in Iraq. And these people who are stuck as National Guard and active duty and reservists, I can't imagine what they're going through. How do you say no? As a rape victim and survivor, how do you say no when you're being attacked like that? Most of us freeze. And how are we to assume they aren't going to freeze when given these orders? What do you do? The risk of going against your warrior ethos and dedication to duty and willingness to make a personal sacrifice in your country. Do we just end up in Leavenworth and take it? Like, what do we do?
Yeah, go ahead, Derrick. There's got to be a lot of peer pressure.
I know very, very personally about what contradicting an order can do for you. I was a corporal in the Marine Corps and got busted down to a private because I refused an order. It was a perfectly lawful order, but my conscience happened to grow at that moment. Horrible thing during a peacekeeping mission when your conscience grows because you don't want to pull a trigger at someone who's holding a child. So I got busted down, was able to make it back to Lance Corporal before, I got injured while over in Kosovo. And yeah, it's to understand at 18, 19, 20 years old, what is lawful or non-lawful is extremely difficult for these kids to go through. They, like Blythe said, we were not trained on the difference between lawful and unlawful. We were trained, especially like my MOS, which was infantry assaultment, or what we called super grunts, because we fired every weapon platform in the
called you
Marine
bullet
Corps.
sponges.
Well, yeah, exactly. But but we got to fire every weapon platform in the Marine Corps. And we're only taught for one thing: put rounds down range effectively. One shot, one kill is the Marine Corps ethos. It's not, political theory is not part of the ethos. I mean, yeah, there is no such thing as a dumb Marine. We have an actual reading list from the Commandant that we have to read all the time. We're not stupid. It's just seen that we are because we're America's bulldogs. But we're not taught the minutia of what is legal and what is not. We are trained to comply. I mean, you are broken down, and I don't know how it is in Army or Navy basics, but you are stripped from your individual self completely ripped apart psychologically and at times physically, and you are rebuilt as one unit. There is no I. It is this recruit. So you are completely, your humanity and your individuality are stripped away from you. That is the toughest part for non-veterans to understand, is the fact that, yeah, it may be in our ethos to disobey lawful or unlawful orders, but how the hell are you going to do that when you're not an individual anymore?
If anything, Derek, I was heartened in a way by how stoic and disinterested that audience of generals and admirals seemed to be in Hegseth's pep talk or Trump's insane rant. And so I want to ask you, Blythe, you spent a lot of time, around a general in Iraq, and these are the folks who are well versed in the ins and outs of what is a legal or illegal order, and the they've got the uniform code of military justice, memorized back and forth, those guys. So I guess put me inside their head as they're listening to this, since you spent a lot of time around folks like that.
Well, this is what I would like for it to be at the forefront of their psyche or their head or their thought process. Before you make a decision, you worry about the collateral damage. If I pull this trigger, or if I tell someone to pull this trigger, who is it harming? Is it just harming the receiving end of said bullet? Is it harming a family, a village, a military, a country, a state? Is it how does this make us look as a country or as a unit? And we are only as strong as our weakest link. So this is an SOS. This is a save our souls, save our state, save our sanity, save our souls, schools, save our future, save us. Please remember that we are only as strong as our weakest link. And you, the generals, need to be aware that the weakest link right now are those of us who are fighting for the right thing. And we need to be heard. We need to be listened to. We need to be in the forefront. And it will require great sacrifice from those generals. It will likely get them fired. It will likely get them ostracized. The peer pressure in the military is unreal. Not just from your literal peers, but from your subordinates and your higher ups. And not many generals were prior enlisted. I think all three of us were enlisted, so we worked for a living, which is a dig to general or to officers.
Don't call me sir. I work for my money.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm hoping it's like what we say with the end users. Like, we need them to hear us and understand what it is to be in our position. Maybe that means they need to listen to this podcast or have a conversation with us or check their inbox, because I've sent many of them messages. Please help. What are we doing? I'm scared. We have one opportunity to get us out of this mess. And I think right now it's going to rely on the people who are in that room to do something radically different. And I
Okay,
don't
well,
know what that
I'm
looks
glad
like.
I'm glad you walked me there, because that's kind of the last thing I wanted to ask today. Now, it is very very uncomfortable to even broach this topic. But given that the president of the United States and his cabinet are essentially, I don't know, a group of illegal orders in a trench coat,
Yeah.
should the American people, and some are, I've seen it talk online, should we be low key hoping for a military coup?
I would
Charles?
say I would toss it I have a two-part thought on this. My first part of it is that Blythe is right. These folks need to be thinking about what is right and again upholding their oath to the Constitution. But I don't think it's just incumbent on the generals or the higher ups. I think it's also incumbent on the senior enlisted, and I think it's also because the senior enlisted, if you get the E5s and higher engaged with their chain of command, I guarantee something will start moving forward. But again, it does take that conversation to start forward. But the concept of a military coup in the traditional sense, I would be hard pressed to feel that that would happen unless unless like the world uh, health is on the brink of it. I do think they could lead by example by showing this is how we are going to do. I mean, yes, there are some things that can be tweaked and peaked. There always is, but the fundamental of our military is to uphold its constitutional oath. That has to be first and foremost above anything else. And the thought too is these orders, as they've been quote unquote issued, they're from the quote unquote Department of War, which does not exist. So they can hang their hat on that because only Congress can change the Department of Defense to the Department of War or anything else for that matter. It is not something that the president has the ability to rebrand. That's not a thing. You know, it's a hey, I want you guys to think about doing this, but Congress can tell them that, dude, pound sand. That is the beauty of the separations of powers and how our republic is set up. But on the other side of that, and I think the generals can take that and say, yeah, okay, we'll kind of listen, but we're kind of gonna do it in a we'll go in a direction that we can make some things make sense, but not the insane parts of it. So I think as the term coup is traditionally identified, no, but I think there are different ways to lead resistance and to show leadership in other ways by example. And I think our military can really help us do that.
Derrick, what do you
I mean,
think?
I'm being optimistic, but
Um, yeah, I don't think military will try to overthrow the government. Um, it's just not within the ethos of the military to do that. I mean, they can resist, but there are ways for us to right the ship. It will take time to right the ship. We will get there. If we don't, then it won't matter anymore because we won't be a country anymore because we'll have ripped ourselves apart. And to answer a comment that I saw online, by the way, purple is the best flavor of crayon. It is the best flavor.
Do purple crayons taste like purple Kool-Aid? Do they taste like that fake grape flavor?
Yeah, purple drink. Yeah,
Purple drink.
the
yeah,
debate,
purple
the debate
drink.
just got ended right there.
No, I'm glad we can still laugh.
You
Blythe,
have
I
to
want to
laugh.
give you the last question though, because again, you spent time around generals. You kind of maybe can help us get inside their head. Will our general and admiral class refuse Trump's illegal orders? Will they refuse to occupy the streets of America?
I hope so. This is so scary. um I don't always I'm losing optimism in other people's actions. Um so I hope I am proved wrong, but I don't I think it's us, the people, the veterans, the civilians, who are going to have to figure out a way to make it better. And I hope it's not a coup. I don't want to be involved. That's terrifying. It's terrifying to, I don't want to bear witness to it. I don't want to be involved with it. I want nothing to do with it. I want our elected officials and our military personnel to fucking do the right thing. Finally, to do the right thing. And I don't know if that's in anyone's wheelhouse, but I hope I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, this was in
Yeah.
2005 and I was just a bodyguard, right? I wasn't in on these conversations. I
Yeah.
will plead for help from anybody who has the power to do something. So I hope they do. I just want them to do the right thing and to be transparent about it and talk to us about it. And that's hard for people who are in the service right now to do. They can't use their voices like we can.
Yeah.
But it's our duty to speak for them if we can.
No, I
I mean,
maybe
who
we
hated that?
redefine coup, right? Like maybe we redefine what a coup is, because right now I feel like we're redefining what a civil war is. We are at war. We have been at a civil war for, well, did it really ever end? We have one side versus the other. We are constantly being pitted against each other when it's really the wealthy versus the poor. So perhaps this is where we start acknowledging that and end that war.
Great words from all of you. Blythe, I can see, that you're emotional and it just means a lot. And just, I can see how much you care, and all of you just, I can see how much your service means to you, how much it shaped you, and how seriously you take that oath. And listen, the United States Armed Services have been involved in a lot of I don't know, fuckery over the
Yeah.
last our entire history, especially
Yeah.
since the maybe since 1900 or right around there, since we really became an empire. It is, but just like conservatives like to use the phrase love the sinner, hate the sin. You can hate the mission and love the soldiers. And I love all of you guys, and I appreciate your service, and I just can't thank you enough for really embodying the best of what we're supposed to be as a country. Let's go ahead and close this out for today. Where can the folks connect with you online, learn more about you? I know, Blythe, you're running for office, so you got a
Mhm.
campaign website, I'm sure. Let us start with you. Where can the good folks learn more about you?
Quickly, I want to say that this isn't unique for Americans or veterans or military personnel. This is home. We are Palestine. We are Canada. We are Argentina. We are Venezuela. We are every other civilian in the world. This is home, and this is why it's important. This is where I was born. This is where I've lived my whole life. This is our home. And I care about our home being safe. Okay. I know other people watching this know what that means. So BlythePotter.com is my campaign website. I'm also the chapter lead for Hoosier Bitches Get Stuff Done. Please check that out, HoosierBitchesGetStuffDone.org. I'm at Blythe Potter IN on all the social media channels. And I am running for Secretary of State to save our state.
All right, thanks, Blythe. Charles, how about you? Can the good folks get a hold of you online?
Yeah, if you go to Hancock Dems, that's our county website, HancockINDems.com. That has my bio and my contact information. I do want to throw out there that we do have a monthly speaker series that we talk about all these things more in depth too, to add into some of these great topics we've covered today. So you can reach out to me there. So yeah.
Thanks, Charles. Finally, Derrick, close us out.
Hold Them Accountable is name of my podcast. That's on YouTube, on God, everywhere except for Facebook. Facebook, it's the People's Fourth. but hold them accountable at all the socials. I take the news, put a satirical spin to it, because if you haven't noticed, I'm a bit of a smartass, and I love being here with you.
Same. And I listen, if we can't have a little laugh through all of this, we will inevitably all go crazy. And it's important to just breathe a little bit, get ourselves into spaces where we can have these hard conversations. And I want to thank the three of you for being here and having this one with me. And thanks for all those folks out there watching on YouTube and Facebook and Substack Live. We gave that a try today. So join us next week. Again, please be sure to subscribe to Project Next if you like having important, meaningful conversations like these. Follow us on Project Next Movement on most of the socials, Project Next Media on TikTok. The website is projectnextindiana.com. Mine is whosleft.us. That is also my handle on many of the social media sites. Until next time, thank you for joining me here on Who's Left This Week. I'm Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.